Good morning and welcome. My name is Minna Zelch and I'm a member of East Shore UU Church. Welcome to this time of worship, this weekly time when we come together to share our lives and our intentions to live out our mission, to love, revere, discover, and connect. If you're new here and would like to know more about East Shore or Unitarian Universalism, there are pamphlets in the narthex, and we ask you to stay after the service for coffee and conversation. Whether you're a member or friend of our congregation, whether you join us every Sunday or only occasionally, whether we've known you for decades or you've just stumbled upon us, whether you are here with us in person or via the internet, you are welcome here. Your skin color and your net worth matter. Who you love and your expressions of gender matter. Your ancestry and political affiliation matter. Your spiritual journey you've made on your way here matters. All these things make you who you are, and you are welcome here.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I don't see any new faces, wait, I see one new face. Hi, I'm Halcyon Domanski, and I'm the Director of Faith Development here at East Shore. And today, we are going to explore beginnings, those of long ago. I ask you to ponder why these stories are so important. Do we need them? When is the beginning? So please stand as you're willing able to sing hymn 331, Life is the Greatest Gift of All. Let us worship together.
To receive, to carry, and to give back.
Now is the time to share our joys and concerns in our lives and in the world. Those from our book, which is available before the service in the narthex, and those of the world, and those we hold in our hearts. We will have a moment of silent meditation and then quietly place stones in the bowl underneath the narthex. When the bowl is full of stones, which is getting quite close to be, we will bless those stones and add them to our landscape. If you forgot to get a stone, just hold your thoughts, and at that moment, go up and there are stones in the back, you can grab them then. So, two joys from Marie Nightingale. The first is a French horn player Vivian Douglas will be playing at lunchtime on Wednesday at Euclid Beach Park. Marie will be joining her in the easier songs with the saxophone. So bring a lunch and watch her perform and enjoy. And her second joy, she wants us to read or reread William Saroyan's Human Comedy. She gives it great ratings, it's a super writing, and it's a Pulitzer Prize winner. And then we have Ron Prozac and Judy Willauer. We're married 46 years ago on this date at East Shore. And they've been making us do things that are proper and right ever since. I also like to bring to our attention, ask us to hold in our hearts all of the things that we are struggling with emotionally and mentally, as far as politics, war, people. So just hold us in our thoughts, send out energy of love and respect, and hopefully ask for some enlightenment where we can help solve some of these problems. And now a moment of silent meditation. You can go put the rocks in the bowl. Well, you can't, but you can be with us while we do. Our prayer today is a call and response. So I please ask you to get your gray hymnals and open it up to 445, the Womb of Stars. The womb of stars embraces us, remnants of their fiery furnaces pulse through our veins.
We are of the stars, the dust of the explosions cast across space.
We are of the earth. We breathe the life and the breath of ancient plants and beasts.
Crystals nourish the soil. We build our communities on our harvest of gifts.
Our fingers trace the curves carved in clay and stone by forebearers unknown to us.
We are part of the greater circle of humanity, gathered around the fire, the hearth, the altar.
We gather anew this day to celebrate our common heritage.
May we call in gratitude all that has given us birth.
Before there was soil or sky, any green thing at all, there was only the gaping abyss of Ginangaka. This chaos of perfect silence and darkness lay between the homeland of the elemental fire, Muspelheim, and the homeland of elemental ice, Nibelheim, or Nibelheim. Frost on Nibelheim was billowing flames from Muspelheim, crept towards each other until they met in Ginangaka. Amid the hissing and the sputtering, the fire melted the ice, and the drops formed themselves into Ymir, the first godlike and most destructive of all the giants. Ymir was a hermaphrodite and could reproduce asexually. When he slept, more giants leapt forth from his legs and the sweats of his armpits. As the frost continued to melt, a cow, Audhumla, emerged from it. She nourished Ymir with her milk, and she in turn was nourished by the salt licks and the ice. Her licks slowly uncovered Buri, the first of the Aesir tribe of gods. Buri had a son named Bor, and Bor married Vestula, the first daughter of the giant Boltholm. The half-god and half-giant children of Bor and Vestula were Odin, who became the chief of the Aesir gods, and his twin brothers Vili and Ve. Odin and his brothers slew Ymir and set about constructing the world from his corpse. They fashioned the oceans with his blood, the soil from his skin and muscle, vegetation from his hair, clouds from his brain, and the sky from his skull. 4 doors stood in corresponding cardinal points and held Ymir's skull above the earth. The gods eventually came to form the first man and first woman, Ask and Embla, from 2 tree trunks, and they built a fence around their dwelling home and called it Midgard to protect them from the other giants. Or, it is to be understood that it is not the first universe. There have been many before, and there will be many to come. Nor is it the only universe where there are always many and many planes and places. And it all started with the primeval one. Having become bored being the only thing in existence, he split himself into a variety of forms and manifestations so that through them it could experience a loving and playful relationship with itself. One such form the primeval became was Vishnu. Vishnu, lying on an ocean of milk atop the serpent Sisha, sprung a lotus from his navel that contained the god Brahma. Brahma then creates all living beings, things, and gods from Brahma. It is said that Vishnu then expanded himself into Paramatma and entered into everything that exists in the material and immaterial spheres. Or, in the beginning, when God created heaven and earth, the earth was a formless void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. The Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, and God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a dome between the waters to separate water from water." And so God made the dome and separated the water under the dome from the water above it. And it was so. And God called the dome sky. And there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the water under the sky become gathered in one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and he gathered waters he called seas. And God saw it was good. And then God said, "Let the land produce vegetation," and it was so. God saw it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate day from night, a greater light to govern the day, and a lesser light to govern the night." And he also made the stars. God set them in the dome of the sky to give the light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and separate the light from the darkness. And God saw it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, "Let the water teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the dome of the sky." And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and increase in number, and fill the waters of the sea, and let the birds increase on earth." And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, "Let the land produce living creatures of every kind, the livestock, the wild animals, each of every kind." And it was so. And God made the wild animals of every kind, and the livestock of every kind, and all the creatures to move along the ground of every kind. And God saw it was good. And then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, the livestock, the wild animals, and the creatures that move along the ground." And it was so. And God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Thus the heaven and the earth were finished with all their magnitudes, and on the seventh day God rested. And it was good. Or, in the beginning, as far as we know, there was nothing. Suddenly, from a single point, all the energy in the universe burst forth. Since that moment, 13.8 billion years ago, the universe has been expanding and cooling down as it gets bigger. Gradually, energy cooled enough to become matter. One electron could stay in orbit around one proton and become the atom of hydrogen. Great clouds of hydrogen swirled around space until gravity pulled some atoms so close together that they began to burn as stars. Stars swirl together in giant clusters called galaxies. Now, there are galaxies numbering in the billions. After each star burned up all its matter, it died in a huge explosion. The explosion generated so much heat that some atoms fused and got more and more complex, forming many different elements, even gold and silver. One giant star, our mother star, exploded and scattered clouds of gas containing all the elements needed to form living beings. About 5 billion years ago, gravity pulled these atoms into a new star, which is our sun. And the leftover pieces of matter stuck to each other and formed 8 planets which revolve around that sun. The third planet out, which we call Earth, became our home. It was the perfect size, not too big, not too small. It was the perfect distance from the sun, not too far, not too near. The crust, a thin crust formed over the Earth's hot interior, and the temperatures were just right for water to form on parts of the surface. Gradually, the chemicals in the water formed inside of membranes and got more complex until one-celled living organisms appeared, able to maintain themselves and reproduce from themselves. For 3 billion years, these one-celled creatures reproduced almost exactly, but not quite. They gradually changed in response to their environment. They also changed their environment. They learned to burn energy from the sun. They released oxygen into the atmosphere, and the oxygen formed ozone layer around the Earth that protected life from the sun's rays. Eventually, cells stuck together to form creatures with many cells. Plants and animals came out of the sea onto the land and became ever more complex and aware. About 100,000 years ago, human beings evolved from a shared ancestry of a species with the apes. No more ors. I came to share these stories today because the teens want to explore origin stories from around the world this summer. And here we have 4 stories or myths of the beginning, that capital B, among hundreds: Norse, Hindu, Judeo-Christian, and the Big Bang. 4 very different beginnings. Or are they? Many of us in the room would say the last story is the true one. We would say it's not a myth. But is it not? First, we need to realize that myths and theories have 2 different definitions. Simply put, myths are fiction and theories are facts. Yet these 2 things are the same coin, and not always on opposite sides. Many theories have come from myths, and many theories have been proven to be myths. And there are many that are quite simply both. A simple example of a myth theory is the story that elephants are afraid of mice. Myth, right? Why would something that weighs tons be afraid of something that weighs ounces? Yet experiments have been done, and yes, elephants are afraid of mice. So now we have a theory instead of a myth. The Earth being flat was a theory, and now we see it as a myth. The point is, we can only guess to what something is based on the information we have now. And we know that so much information gets lost, gets changed and twisted throughout time. The Hindu origin story tells us that the universe has been created from itself and destroyed and recreated from itself many times over. The cyclic model of the Big Bang theory says the universe we live on now comes from a collapsing universe, and that this process most likely has happened many times over. And both linear and cyclic model theists and scientists say that there was something before the bang. Could it be the Christian God, or Ginnan-Gagap? A chaos of perfect silence and darkness? which is a perfect explanation of space. Let's come a little closer in time. Let's say our lives. We have many origin stories in our lives: our birth, marriage, children, so on. These stories define who we are and who we've become. We have many myths in our lives that have defined who we are and who we've become. One of the myths in my life was my grandfather's siblings. My grandmother's grandfather lost all of his siblings in the Civil War. The exact story goes, they were escaping in the woods and got separated. And my third grandfather was the only one to make it home, and his siblings were to never be seen again. However, according to Ancestry.com, my third grandfather was an only child. This story is both a myth and a theory. Did he fight in the war? Most likely. Did he lose friends? Most definitely. Fact and theory. Did he lose his siblings? No, he didn't have any. Fiction, myth. Could this story turn out to be completely true? Yes. Ancestry.com may have said the wrong man was my third grandfather. Does the story matter and make who I am? I have to say yes and no. Whether or not it is true, it has shaped some small part of my life and my perception of things. And I have found that I must honor both stories. In the end, they're both true. Many siblings were never seen again, be they Yankee, rebel, or slave. And this makes me take a closer look at the creation stories. Do I think God made Earth in 7 days? Absolutely no. But I'm thinking of human days, Earth days. Maybe to God, a day is the creation and collapsing of a universe. And then, yeah, I could see everything we are and have being created with that happening 7 times. All creation came from the giant Ymir, or Brahma, or the stars. Do these stories matter? Do they make us who we are? Again, I have to say yes. They have shaped our lives and our perceptions of things. And we should honor the stories, be they myth or theory. Who knows? The next decade, science could prove the Big Bang Theory is a complete myth, and fairies are real.
So one thing we frequently talk about in faith development is how we as the people are the church. It's not this building, it's not this grounds. It's us that make up the church. However, the building and the grounds are also important. They give us a place to gather. They give us a place to continue our mission. And so today for the offering, we ask that you give generously to help us maintain these buildings and this building and these grounds. And if you're a guest, we ask that you let the basket pass you by. And I believe you're going to start with Audrey, who is going to be reading the words of the offertory.
Knowledge, they say, drives wonder from the world. They say it still, though all the dust's ablaze with marbles at their feet, while Newton's laws foretell that knowledge one day shall be song. We seem like children wandering by the shore, gathering pebbles colored by the waves. while the great sea of truth from sky to sky stretches before us, boundless, unexplored.
And I completely forgot to mention that half of our booster offering this month is going to be donated to FACT Ohio. FACT stands for Faith Communities Together for a Sustainable Future. So now I want to thank you so much for all of your gifts of being here, your gifts of time, your gifts of money, and everything that you do to make this community what it is, so that we can continue our mission to love, revere, discover, and connect. Now I ask you to please rise if you're willing and able, and sing our closing hymn, number 1066, O Brother Sun. Oh, sorry, the Teal hymnal.
So, you didn't think you were going to get away without me reading you a poem. For our benediction, this is a poem written by Denise Levertov called "The Passeth All Understanding." An awe so quiet, I don't know when it began. A gratitude has begun to sing in me. Was there some moment dividing song from no song? When does dewfall begin? When does night fold its arms over our hearts to cherish them? When is daybreak? As we extinguish this chalice, let its light continue to bloom, not bloom, glow within ourselves.